2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk lowering spring installation. I've already done the rear. I followed a video on the SRT. The setup's the exact same back there. However, I noticed that in the front, things are a little different. They've been updated for the Trackhawk. The strut, the base of the strut here, is set up quite differently than the SRT models, where it's a two-piece. And actually, it makes it nicer, in my opinion, compared to what I saw in the video. So I'll show you here a quick how-to. I'll get started here with taking off the brakes. Brakes are really easy to take off. It's just 2 bolts coming from the back side. Make sure you support it. You know, probably seen that in other videos. Make sure you set it on something or hang it with some wire. Okay, next thing you want to do is disconnect all your linkage. You're going to disconnect the top one here. You also need to disconnect, let me turn the wheel. Okay. Tough to turn. Alright, then you disconnect down here at the base of the strut, and that's just going to give you some play to work with. In the back here, it's actually, I'll try to get back here and you can see it's pinched. So that's how it's clamping on to the base of the strut. So when it gets time to actually remove it, you're going to take this nut and bolt all the way out. This piece will come down, protect the top of your drive shaft with a towel or cloth so you don't mark it up. Alright, I'm going to take this bolt off here. So then take your 3 bolts out on the top of your strut and drop it down, pull it out. So I'll kind of cut back in here once I get some of this stuff removed to show you. Alright, one other thing I will mention is that there's a sensor that's mounted back in here just to give you a little bit of extra play and make sure you don't damage it at all by catching it when you're removing the strut. I would just recommend disconnecting it and letting it hang down there. And don't forget you did that when you go to reinstall everything. Alright, I also recommend taking off the rotor. Pretty easy to do. There's just a little O-ring that is just right in here that you use a little pick to work out very carefully so that you don't destroy it. Okay, once you get that out, the rotor just pretty much falls off. So I've disconnected the links down there. This is loose. I'm going to take off the rotor before I pull that all the way off because I want to get some of the weight. That's mostly why I'm taking the rotor off. They weigh a ton, and I just want to have less weight to have to deal with as I'm trying to manipulate things to get this out. So I've removed the back bolt back here. I have not spread this yet. What I did on the other side is I just took one of my pry bars and wiggled it back in there and just kind of tweaked it a little bit just to kind of give it enough to open it up. Once it's loose and it'll come out. But you do have to have the bolt completely removed. I found that out. I tried to just loosen it last time and I kept having to come back and loosen it again and again. And this piece is aluminum. It's very light, so it doesn't have a lot of spring to it, which is nice. So once you do get it loose, it'll stay loose until you tighten it back up. Okay, and I haven't done anything to the top side yet. That'll be the last step. You want to make sure that you've got something holding this in when you try to knock this loose. You can see I've already got a cloth underneath there, so when I do break this loose, or if it does come loose while I'm working with other things, that it doesn't fall on the drive shaft. All right, I'll check back in a second here once I get the rest of this stuff. All right, rotor's off. We're disconnected from the camber arm up top. And now I'm going to go ahead, like I said, and try to spread this again and get it to drop down. And then once it's down and out of the way, then I can disconnect the strut from the top. And the rest is pretty much a normal spring change using the McPherson strut compressors to pinch down each side of the spring. Make sure you have everything marked. I strongly recommend that what I did was I just take and clean off a little area right here and either scribe it or mark it with a Sharpie so that you can get this lined up exactly where it was before. And then also make sure you have your alignment on your top exactly perfect, so that it all comes back into place here. And it's kind of tough to do because the aftermarket springs aren't, I got iBox, the Pro Kit, and they're great. You're probably not going to find anything better aftermarket wise, but they're not exactly the same as far as where the ends of the coils line up. You know, the top is, I'll actually show you in the video here in a minute, but the top is stopped on a rubber stop, so you bump it up against there at the top of the coil, but the bottom doesn't line up exactly the same as it was with the factory, so don't count on that as your alignment. You need to make some marks on your strut on all of your pieces. You'll notice here on the top that these two bolts on the top of the strut are completely straight, straight across in line with the strut down below. So what I did is I made a mark. I haven't done it yet on this side, but I made a mark here so it's completely straight, and then those two bolts there, and then you eyeball them to get them, make sure that when you put it all back together that the mark that you put in the bottom here lines up with the two bolts being in line, kind of all completely straight. So I'll show you when I get. So you lower your jack enough that you've got some room down here below, and like I said, so I've just got a short pry bar I've got that fits in here, and you could probably get a longer one in here too than I'm using, but this one works perfectly for me. And just pried it apart just a little bit to get enough of a slip, and then it pretty much just falls down. Hit it with a rubber mallet, you know, up here and over right here. Tap it a few times and it'll come loose. So right now it's loose, so I need to put my phone down so I can manipulate things to get it out, but there's just maybe another 1/4 inch down here it's loose, but I have to manipulate things to be able to get it out. So I'll have it out here in just a second. All right, so it's out. Here it is. See my alignment mark on the top. You can see my alignment mark on here. Okay. Now I just take the 3 nuts off the studs at the top, and it'll come down. It comes out real easy. Make sure you disconnect everything first. Now when you're going back to reassemble, it's just reverse order, but what I recommend doing to get that all to seat properly, to get this to seat back up flush against the base of the strut, is install it, put the bolt back through. You don't have to put it tight or put the nut on or anything. Put the bolt back through here and then jack it up until it seats flush. Okay, and once you're flush, then you can tighten your bolt in the back. I don't know what the specs are on this. There's a video with the SRT, which is a different setup, and gentleman doing that video was calling out specs for torque, but I don't know what they are in here, so I just go good and tight. It's aluminum. You're compressing aluminum against the steel, and it's just to hold it on there tight. You're not I don't know, you just make sure it's nice and tight, and you should be good to go on that one. All right, the new iBox spring is in. Grab this light. New iBox spring is on there. Whoa, there we go. And there's the part number for the Trackhawk. 11-51-022-01. F is for front, and there's a R for the rear. So they're special for the iBox, for the Trackhawk, and they're more expensive. Go figure. So anyways, I got the bolt in, and it's all lined up now, and now I just need to jack it up to seat it, and then put the bolt in and tighten it. The rest of the reassembly is pretty straightforward. Just don't forget to, connect things up. Those are usually the things that are missed. Everybody grabs all the bolts and then forgets to connect the wire, and then they go start the car and they get a bunch of codes and stuff. So just remember to make sure everything's connected, properly seated and secured. All right, I think that's going to be it for the video. I mean, it's just all basic reassembly from this point. Don't forget to use your anti-seize, like I said, on all your bolts and nuts. And you don't have to overdo it. This is all you do right here for anti-seize. Get a little on there. I don't know if you can see this bolt down here, but just get a little bit on there. The nut's going to do the rest of the work. Anti-seize is a grease with some metal fibers in it. Here, this is how I do it, right there. That's it. That's all you need. Oh, and then when you put on your rotors back on, put a bunch around here because you'll have your rotors seized to your hubs. So get it all on there, all the way around here. Really good. A lot, I should say, on here. You don't need a lot on your threads, but I'd use a lot on here. That way your rotors will come off nice and easy for the rest of the car's existence. So that's it, man. Hope this helps for anybody trying to do these on a Trackhawk. You do not have to go and take the shafts out or anything like that. Like I think you have to do that on the SRTs, but Trackhawk you do not, because they came up with this new design and it's great. It's still a lot of work, it's still a pain in the ass, but I think it's better than the Trackhawks. So hope that helps. All right, so back together except for the brakes. Just wanted to show you here. Tons of anti-seize all over this. This gets hot, it gets corroded. Hot and corrosion equals seizing. So anti-seize required. Make sure you get it all the way around there. You can see that little groove. See that little groove in there? That's where the O-ring goes. So after you put the brake back on, make sure your O-ring slips into that groove and that'll hold the disc back on. Okay, so tightened up the links, sway links, tightened up the camber arm. The forked bottom of the shock there is all tightened up. Cranked the that clamp style bottom to the strut nice and tight. You can see I'm all lined back up again here. Oh, it's hard to see. Yes, that's the best I'm going to be able to do for an angle, but it's lined up perfectly. I got lucky 2 times, so just pay attention to all your alignment and make sure it's good. Bolts on top here are all tightened up. Caps back in. I think I'm ready to put the brakes back on and put the wheels on, torque everything down on the lug nuts and see what it looks like. I'll do a video of it all done. See, I did not do a before video, but you've seen a million Trackhawks before. Hopefully you're a Trackhawk owner and are watching this and you'll be able to see too what a lowered Trackhawk with the Eibach Pro Kit springs looks like.